The King's Avatar, Chapter 1563 Cleric Blockade. Audio source, WuShoWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1563 Cleric Blockade. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Boundless sea fell, and in that instant, the sky and earth flipped for Fang Rui. All he could see was a flurry of fists and feet. Han Wenqing's desert dust and Song Qing's river sunset had chased after him and attacked ferociously. His health dropped rapidly. Dancing Rain's artillery support wasn't enough to stop them. Tyranny's three fighters attacked fiercely amidst the fire and smoke. White light continued to flash on top of them. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock was going all out to heal them. This was how Tyranny operated. Even the smallest thing wouldn't be missed by them. Their arrangements had multiple layers to them. Each and every member of Tyranny contributed towards the pressure on Happy, making their opponents appear weak and insignificant. Tyranny was like an impregnable war machine, slowly crushing down on Happy. Scheme, trap, ambush. None of those were important. Zhang Xinji had always been considered incompatible with Tyranny's style. But once he began to truly integrate himself into Tyranny, people realized that it was as if the final piece of the puzzle had been placed down for Tyranny. The new Tyranny was both bold yet cautious, more reliable and stronger. Wasn't this the overwhelming power that Tyranny had always sought? Even the people watching felt a shudder. How could this sort of tyranny be beaten? Fang Rui's boundless sea was just their first stepping stone. And then, Lord Grimm, Dancing Rain, or Soft Mist and Concealed Light, who were on the verge of arriving? Facing such a domineering tyranny, Happy had unexpectedly chosen to go with a healer-less team composition. The broadcast occasionally switched over to Soft Mist's and Concealed Light's direction. What these two did next would likely determine the outcome of this match. Would these two rookies be enough to shake the domineering tyranny? Almost no one had any confidence in them, showing just how powerful Tyranny appeared to everyone. With such meticulous coordination and efficiency, an opening? No such thing. Stop. Quote. A message suddenly popped up in Happy's chat from Yishu. When Tang Ru and Luoji saw the message, they immediately stopped. Were they giving up? Was there no way for them to rescue this situation? Was the miracle worker Yishu also helpless today? Tang Ru and Luoji had stopped. The situation couldn't be saved. Su Mucheng's Dancing Rain suddenly shifted her target to Dazzling 100 Blossoms. Dancing Rain focused on Dazzling 100 Blossoms to provide cover for Lord Grimm to retreat. Under the heavy gunfire, the light cover from Zhang Jolly's Dazzling 100 Blossoms began to falter, and Lord Grimm immediately seized this opening. Climb the wall. No. Lord Grimm twisted around, and with a shin cut, he headed towards the battle between four fighters on the other end. Yishu was going in alone to save Fang Rui's boundless sea. Happy hasn't given up, so why did Yishu tell Tang Ru and Luoji to stop? Everyone was at a loss. Even the pro players watching couldn't understand. Lord Grimm moved like lightning, but he wasn't able to use the Xing arc to make it all the way over, only 2/3 of the way over. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. Ding! A clash of weapons, and then white light flashed. A movable rock. The one blocking Yishu's Lord Grimm was unexpectedly Zhang Xinji's cleric, a movable rock. The backlight cross in his hands parried the incoming Xing cut. However, clerics were lacking in strength and wouldn't be looking for the stat in their equipment. Although they could also swing their weapons as a basic attack due to their low strength, it was very ineffective. Cleric basic attacks had no way to parry a Xing cut, but Lord Grimm had truly been stopped. The Xing cut had somehow been knocked aside by a movable rock's cross. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock had equipment with strength. That was everyone's first thought, but everyone knew that it didn't really make any sense. Clerics weren't going to sacrifice other important stats just to buff their basic attacks. Then what was the reason? Everyone was doubtful. Then, they saw a immovable rock continue moving. After blocking the Xing cut, his cross swung towards Lord Grimm. This seemingly decorative cross moved like a meteor in immovable rock's hands. White light rippled, once, twice, forcing Lord Grimm back. This is Crusaders' Trials. Quote, in the end, the Knight players amongst the pro player chat group recognized the skill. Your clerics actually choose to use Crusaders' Trials. The player added. The player instinctively worded it as, your clerics. He was Team 301's newly transferred European player, Bai Shu. As someone in a different competitive scene, seeing something he had never seen before, he immediately thought that it was a China-specific strategy, hence the your clerics. Ha, what's special about that? It's pretty common here. Royal Styles Lin Sen expressed. Yeah. The other players added with a sense of satisfaction. They felt like Zhang Xinjie was truly giving face to their country's glory scene. Making this foreign player feel as if he was seeing a whole new world was too awesome of a feeling. They forgot that Bai Shu had teammates too. Team 301's Yang Kong private messaged Bai Shu, telling him that the others were messing with him. It was their first time seeing Crusaders' Trials on a cleric too. Crusaders' Trials. The Knight's level 70 skill used basic attacks as the foundation. However, the priority of these basic attacks would naturally be much higher than usual. As the skill stacked up, the priority would only increase. Although the first strike had successfully interrupted Lord Grimm's Xing arc, it could be seen that because it was a level 1 skill from a cleric, it had only barely succeeded. If it had been a maxed Crusaders' Trials from a true knight, the first strike would have overwhelmed a skill like Xing arc. The assassin's Xing arc was actually considered an attack with rather weak priority. Immovable Rock's Crusaders' Trials had only just barely been able to parry the Xing arc, but he quickly followed up with successive trials. Yishu clearly hadn't expected Zhang Xinji's skill choice and was caught off guard. No matter how experienced he may be, he had never met a cleric whacking him with a cross. Because of this surprise, the slight pause was enough for dazzling 100 Blossoms to catch up. Zhang Jiali was no longer spreading a cover of light. He was focusing on Lord Grimm, who was now caught between a flurry of cross strikes and a barrage of bullets. With this delay, the distance between Yishu's Lord Grimm and Boundless Sea had pulled away. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Yishu perhaps felt it more clearer than anyone else how troublesome the current situation was. The battle strength that Tyranny displayed had surprised him. He hadn't thought that Tyranny would be able to find their rhythm in this life and death match. The current Tyranny was no longer the Tyranny that Yishu was familiar with. Tyranny had reached a new realm. Yishu could only tell Tang Ru and Luoji to stop. They had no way to break past Tyranny's wall at the moment, which was why he tried to scout them out himself while seeing if he could help Fang Rui as well. In the end, nothing came out of it. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock had blocked his way forward. Crusaders' Trials. For a cleric to choose this sort of skill, why? Was it in order to contest with the enemy for a short if the enemy closed in? In any case, the Crusaders' Trials had been very effective. Yishu's Lord Grimm had just stepped on the gas pedal, but before he could even accelerate, he had to step on the brakes. Don't worry about me, Fang Rui typed out in the public chat. The enemies had surrounded him, and since Tyranny was suppressing Happy, it wasn't hard for Tyranny to figure out what Happy wanted to do. For example, Yishu's Lord Grimm suddenly turning around. Zhang Xinjie immediately realized that Yishu still wanted to save Boundless Sea, so he was able to react in time and block him. If this sort of suppression could be utilized well, it was enough to decide the winner of the match. Fang Rui's declaration was rather solemn. He was Happy's left and right arm, but right now, it was as if he were poisoned. If this continued, the poison would likely spread to the entire body. If he was cut off promptly, although it would be a heavy blow to the team, it would not be fatal. How this situation should be handled was a difficult problem, especially in such an important match. It was difficult, and there was no time for any hesitation. What would Yishu do? Everyone was focused on Lord Grimm. The broadcast felt like if they moved the camera even slightly away from him, the crowd would start cursing violently at them. Lord Grimm stepped forward and sword light flashed. Sword draw. Yishu hadn't given up. He still pressed forward. Clerics didn't have any close-range methods. Crusaders' Trials was now on cooldown. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock could only use his body to block. However, this sort of sacrifice was bearable. Sword light struck a movable rock. Although he had also swung his cross without help from a skill, it was practically ignored. Moreover, sword draw itself had high priority. But this seemingly negligible resistance was able to provide an opportunity for a movable rock. A movable rock wasn't pushed back as far as a result. A beautiful bullet shot towards Lord Grimm from behind. Zhang Xinji had tanked the hit because he didn't want Lord Grimm to get past him. Zhang Jolly's dazzling 100 Blossoms was behind Lord Grimm, carefully watching over him. Wah! Suddenly, at this moment, the umbrella unexpectedly opened while the sword was halfway pulled out. But the shield was only for a split second, as another sword light flashed out. Compared to the previous one, it was brighter and stronger. Downwind sword slash. A streak of blood flew into the air, and a movable rock was thrown to the side. Lord Grimm had opened up a path and chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1564 Magnetic Field Coil, Audio Source, WurshaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1564 Magnetic Field Coil. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Lord Grimm swept past a movable rock. Zhang Xinji saw it, but he had no way to stop him. However, from his angle, he was able to see Lord Grimm pull something out from his folded umbrella. What is that? This sort of movement must be a skill, but what was it? The worst part about the unspecialized was that it was practically impossible to make any predictions on one. Careful. Zhang Xinji could only give out a vague warning, but with how little Tyranny communicated in the chat, it could be seen just how concerned Zhang Xinji was. For him, the unknown was the most terrifying. Tyranny couldn't ignore Yishu. Even the inexperienced rookie, Song Qiang, had learned to never underestimate Yishu. Facing him, anything could happen. However, that didn't make Zhang Xinji's warning meaningless. Tyranny's players knew very well that Zhang Xinji wouldn't warn them simply as a reminder. If he spoke, it meant that something had happened already. It wasn't clear what that something was, but it was enough for them to be careful. Tyranny's three strikers immediately looked towards Yishu's Lord Grimm after the warning. Was an attack incoming? This was the signal that they got from Zhang Xinji's warning. Sure enough, Lord Grimm had yet to close in, when he threw a grenade with his left hand. The three were surprised. If it was just a normal grenade, it wouldn't be hard to deal with. But for an unspecialized, it might not be a normal grenade. Was it a special grenade from a Spitfire skill, such as an implosion grenade? There was too little time for Tyranny to ponder over it. This would be a test of their eyesight. What did the grenade look like? If they couldn't tell, they wouldn't be able to respond. Norm. A single word popped up in Tyranny's team chat. Zhang Jiale's dazzling 100 Blossoms was being suppressed by dancing rain, but his eyes were mainly focused on Lord Grimm. He was the farthest from that grenade, yet he was the first to deduce what the grenade was. He didn't put his years of experience as a Spitfire to shame. Norm, a normal one. It was a low-level grenade with no special effects. No one doubted Zhang Jiale's judgment. Han Wenking's Desert Dust stepped forward and used a high kick. Boom. An explosion occurred at his feet. Although it was the lowest level grenade, the explosion would produce a small shockwave. However, by moving back as he retracted his kick at the right time, he was able to cancel out the impact. Boom boom boom. Ye Xiu wasn't so quick to give up. He fired 3 anti-tank missiles from his umbrella. Since he hadn't yet closed in onto the 3 fighters, he sent out long-ranged attacks. The 3 anti-tank missiles fired towards separate targets. As long as one of them failed to deal with their missile, Fang Rui would likely be able to escape. However, the 3 fighters near Tyranny turned nearly in sync. Their formation hadn't been broken. It was as if none of them had even moved, yet all 3 anti-tank missiles missed. What else? Tyranny hadn't relaxed yet. Lord Grimm suddenly stepped to the side and fired a shot. A stun bullet shot towards River Sunset. The sidestep wasn't without purpose either. With this step, River Sunset and Desert Dust were lined up. If River Sunset dodged this bullet, Desert Dust would need to dodge as well. However, Han Wenking's line of sight would be blocked by River Sunset. It was rather similar to when Fang Rui surprise attacked at the beginning with the spirit reaches to the rainbow. Dodge. One to the left, the other to the right. River Sunset and Desert Dust seemed to swap places. The bullet seemed to pass right through them. Dodge again. Song Qiang had reacted fast, but what about Han Wenqing? Han Wenqing had relied on his experience and intuition. With Lord Grimm's sidestep, the 3 of them would be in a line. Hearing the gunshot, he quickly deduced that a bullet was heading towards him. He didn't need to see it. Song Qiang had gone left, so he went right. In this way, there wouldn't be any openings for Boundless Sea to take advantage of. None of Ye Xiu's attacks were working, and Ye Xiu didn't have the time to stand around and keep trying. Zhang Jiale was being suppressed by Su Mucheng, but it wasn't a complete suppression. Dazzling 100 Blossoms was shuttling back and forth amidst the explosions, and all of his attacks were aimed towards Lord Grimm. There was also Zhang Xinji's immovable rock. Clerics had ways to control a battlefield as well. There was also the 3 fighters surrounding Boundless Sea. Those 3 could turn on him at any moment. Coming to rescue Fang Rui, but ending up trapped alongside him wasn't the outcome that Ye Xiu wanted to see. That's all that can be done. That was what everyone was thinking, including the pro players in the chat group. Happy was at a numbers disadvantage at the moment. Ye Xiu didn't dare let Lord Grimm get too close, afraid that Tyranny would entrap him and Fang Rui together. He prioritized his own safety first. But with 5 enemies around him, how long could he stay safe? It was already quite impressive for him to be able to get out those 3 attacks. Lord Grimm turned around and rushed towards one of the canyon walls. His intention to climb up the wall and escape was clear as day. However, he hadn't completely given up on trying to rescue Fang Rui. A 1% chance was still better than none. Bang! Another gunshot. This time, it was a floating bullet. If the bullet hit, it would knock the target into the air and create an opening in Tyranny's encirclement. Unfortunately, this attack had missed. River Sunset, who had been the target, sidestepped it. Out. The moment the gunshot rang, Ye Xiu typed out a message in the chat. Out. Were Tang Rou and Luo Ji going to start moving again? Brief but imprecise messages were like torture towards the audience. Fortunately, the answer would soon be revealed. The person going out was Fang Rui. Boundless Sea immediately moved towards where River Sunset had originally been. That was considered an opening. Would he be able to break out? It was just half a body length of distance. River Sunset need only 1 step to get back to where he had been positioned originally in attack. Would Boundless Sea be able to break past this sort of defense from a striker? Fang Rui didn't seem to even consider it. Boundless Sea rushed forward and even attacked back, using what strikers specialized in: front kick, a low-level striker skill. Although in reality, even strikers didn't like using this skill because this skill had a knockback effect. For strikers who wanted to be as close as possible to their opponents, how could they want a target to be knocked back? Of course, it was occasionally useful when you were in a disadvantageous position and wanted to reset the field. As a result, this sort of skill wouldn't be completely tossed aside, although usually only a point or two would be put into it. Fang Rui wanted to use this skill to create a path out for himself. And seeing Boundless Sea's kick, it looked like he had only put in a point or two as well as a defensive skill. Yet this front kick had unexpectedly landed on River Sunset. The viewers watched dumbstruck as River Sunset slid back. Boundless Sea didn't stop for even a moment, kicking as he moved. He had been struggling to get out for so long, and he was going to do it in this way. How is that possible? Everyone was doubtful. Whether it was dodging the front kick or stopping it, let alone a pro player like Song Qiang, even an average player could do it. That was why no one had considered it an opening of any sort. But Song Qiang, Han Wenqing's future successor, had actually been kicked away. Had he been distracted? No. Boundless Sea had escaped. The two old generals on tyranny didn't have time to figure out the reason. They need to rescue the situation. However, when the two raised their arms, everyone noticed that their movements seemed rather slow. Then, they saw that the two characters, no, three including Song Qiang's River Sunset, were being pulled in place by some sort of force. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Magnetic field coil. Quote, "In the end, the pro players figured it out first. This time, the answer came from Xiao Shiqing. This mechanic was the first to see through the reason for their slowed movements. It was the mechanic's skill, magnetic field coil. Everyone immediately understood. It wasn't that Song Qiang had reacted too slow or gotten distracted, but rather that Yishu's Lord Grimm had placed down a magnetic field coil at an unknown time. When he yelled out, he had attacked in coordination with the magnetic field coil. River Sunset had been affected by the skill and his movements were slowed. That was why he wasn't able to react properly to Boundless Sea's front kick. By the time he noticed it, Boundless Sea had already sent him flying back. This was the limit to what Yishu could do. He needed to prioritize his own safety. After that floating bullet, Lord Grimm had gotten to the wall and started climbing. They escaped. In the end, they were able to escape. Just when everyone was thinking this, Han Wenqing's desert dust suddenly leapt into the air. Magnetic field coil. Magnetic field coil didn't completely seal a character's movement. The character would simply be heavier. And for Lord Grimm to have magnetic field coil, the skill could only be at level 1. Its effects would be weak. If it hadn't caught him off guard, Fang Rui might not have been able to get past Song Qiang. Right now, Desert Dust was using an attack under the effects of magnetic field coil, a soaring tiger. It was a skill with powerful jump. It would be slower than usual due to the magnetic field coil, but he would still be able to reach Boundless Sea. Hit. Tyranny's fans prayed, but in the end, it was off by a bit. It hadn't been easy for Fang Rui to get out, so he immediately activated Chi Flowing Cloud to increase his movement speed. Boundless Sea was currently running for his life. Desert Dust had been restricted by the magnetic field coil. Although the effects were small, it still weakened the jump enough. Just off by a bit. Everyone felt regretful over it, when suddenly, Desert Dust dropped down. 1,000-ton drop. At the final moment, he cancelled the soaring tiger and switched skills. Boom. His legs touched the ground, shaking the earth with the force of 1,000 tons. Under the effects of magnetic field coil, the effects of 1,000-ton drop were buffed. Boundless Sea had only been half a body length away from desert dust, and he was launched into the air from the impact. Ferocious tiger flurry. Desert dust rushed forward, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Fang Rui was still stabilizing his Boundless Sea when the first punch struck. Pooh! The punch had struck him squarely in the waist. Just when it seemed like Boundless Sea would be sent flying away, Desert Dust's other fist smashed downwards. With a bang, Boundless Sea crashed into the earth. Ferocious tiger flurry. All of the attacks hit. Han Wenqing was deal with the effects of the magnetic field coil effectively. After the fourth strike, he was outside of its range. His attack speed immediately surged, and Boundless Sea was hit repeatedly. After being attacked by 3 fighters for so long, Boundless Sea didn't have much health left. Chi Masters were a cloth armor class. Their defense wasn't anything noteworthy. Yishu, Lord Grimm was up on the wall, unable to help Su Mucheng. Even though she had the high grounds, it was too difficult to expect her to cover everything. It wasn't only a matter of stopping Han Wenqing. Lin Jingyan and Song Qiang were also rushing towards Boundless Sea. After 10 minutes and 42 seconds, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea was killed. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1565. A poor performance. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1565. A poor performance. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The cheers were thunderous. No matter how low Soft Mist's health may be, she wasn't dead. This sort of lead felt unstable. No matter how dire Boundless Sea circumstances may be, if he wasn't dead, circumstances could always change. But now, they could finally be at ease. Boundless Sea was dead. His name had turned grey. He had already left the match. Tyranny had won a 1-point lead. In terms of overall points, it seemed to be even. However, a 1-point lead in the team competition also meant a numbers advantage. The point wasn't the most significant part. This lead would tip the balance of the team competition. Tyranny's stadium resounded with an ocean of cheers. Even the Li Yibo began livening up and started shouting rapidly. Happy's side was silent. Facing Tyranny, they had never felt like they had the upper hand. And now, their team was down a member, a key member like Fang Rui too. The Happy fans sitting in the away team seats fell silent. The people sitting at Happy's bench like Chen Guo were silent as well. The match would stop for no one knew. Boundless Sea was killed. Yishu's Lord Grimm had climbed up to the top of the canyon wall and began coordinating a pincer attack with Su Mucheng again. This time, Tyranny no longer dodged as cautiously as before, instead pushing forward swiftly and resolutely. Fortunately, Tang Rou and Luo Ji had received Yishu's message and retreated beforehand. However, from the looks of it, Happy was in disarray, and the attacks from Lord Grimm and Dancing Rain didn't seem to pose much of a threat to Tyranny. Their attacks didn't seem as focused as before. It looked as if the two were just casually throwing out a few attacks here and there. Don't panic. We'll take our time. Yishu's comforting words were plain and simple. For the Happy fans watching, not only did it not put their hearts at ease, it made him feel as if Yishu's confidence and fighting spirit were waning. But soon, message after message jumped out in the chat. These weren't words of comfort or encouragement, but instructions. The match wasn't over yet. Yishu gave out clear orders, showing his belief in his team. Fang Rui could also see these messages, but he no longer had the ability to carry them out anymore. What was I able to do? Fang Rui couldn't help but ask himself. He had come to Team Happy as an all-star player and held the highest salary in the team. Even if he wasn't the main pillar, he could still be considered a core member of the team. This was how the public saw him as, and Fang Rui believed it as well. Happy's team competition lineup always included himself, Su Mucheng, and Yi Xiu, the three all-stars as the core. Their positions in the team competition were unshakable. And how had he performed? His class change was indeed a big uncertain factor, but many of his high points this season had been a result of his class change catching his opponents off guard. The class change wasn't an excuse. Fang Rui was very clear on this point because the more he played the Chi Master, the better he got. He didn't feel like the class was hindering him in any way. Was this the best he could do? In the playoffs, Happy had fought against Blue Rain and now Tyranny. Although he was a core member of Happy, he had never been the deciding factor in their wins. Wei Chen and Luo Ji, the two players with the fewest appearances on stage, had been more important in the playoffs. The few times that they had appeared, they had contributed significantly to their wins. And himself? In the group arena, Tyranny had pulled back the lead through him. If not for that, Happy might have been able to go into the team competition with a 2-point lead. In the team competition, he had unexpectedly been the first to be killed. His teammates had set things up well for him, but what was he able to do with it? A spirit reaches to the rainbow, and then Fang Rui felt too ashamed to think of everything else that came afterwards. Even at the end, Yi Xiu had done his best to give him an opportunity to escape, and the outcome? Tyranny had caught him. An unfavorable position. A numbers disadvantage. Fang Rui didn't want this sort of excuse. In Wei Chen's game against Blue Rain and Luo Ji's game against Tyranny, they had made decisive plays, pulling Happy back from a disadvantageous situation. Yet he wasn't able to do so. Fang Rui felt ashamed. At the same time, he also kept watching the unfinished match attentively. We have to win. I still want to play well. Fang Rui mumbled to himself as he watched his teammates on the stage. Back on the battlefield, Happy had regrouped under Yi Xiu's orders. They clearly didn't want to continue fighting with Tyranny here. WuxaWorldAudio.com. They wanted to reset the battle and fight in a different place. During this gradual process, Happy's players began to regain their calm. Even Yi Xiu had felt distressed over the loss of Fang Rui. He wasn't nearly as calm as he appeared. The others were even more so. Luo Ji's palms were covered in sweat. Although this was his second time in a playoffs match, this was his first time in a deciding game. The pressure for this match was different than before. And now, Luo Ji had become the biggest deciding factor for Happy's win. Under this enormous pressure, he nearly fell behind twice while retreating with Tang Ro's soft miss because he wasn't able to keep up his movement pacing. However, Yi Xiu's step-by-step instructions that followed helped Luo Ji calm down. I can't make a mistake. I definitely can't. Luo Ji was different from Fang Rui, who was unhappy with not being the deciding factor for their win. Luo Ji didn't dare have any such hopes. Don't make a mistake. That was all he wanted. It was his bottom line, and he felt that it could be done if he tried his hardest. Luo Ji carried out Yi Xiu's orders meticulously. Through this focused attention on these orders, Happy was able to recoup their morale. Tyranny didn't like for things to be this calm. They had wanted to strike when the iron was hot and chase after them, but they weren't able to reach Yi Xiu and Su Mucheng above them. They hadn't even seen the other members on Happy yet. Since it was a random map, everyone only had a rough understanding of the map. There was no way to get a grasp of the details before the team competition. The area that Tyranny was heading into was unknown territory. They had no way of predicting what Happy would do next. They could only see that Happy had given up on this canyon region. AEAD was the exit to the canyon. The canyon walls sloped downwards until it was flat at the exit. Outside, to the left, was the spawn point at the left end of the map. To the right was the path to the 7 color springs at the center of the map. The two sides knew about these paths through the brief introduction to the map. Left, right, or continue forward. Tyranny didn't make any decisions yet. When they reached the canyon exit, they need to check for ambushes. End chapter.